Information is a source of learning, but unless it's organized, processed and available to the right people in a format for decision-making, it is a burden, not a benefit. William Pollard. Welcome to Jamaica Magazine, where we are removing the obstacles that will hinder your decision-making and laying the yellow brick road with blocks of material that will answer your questions, bring clarity and even entertain as you make your trek of self-discovery and goal attainment. I'm Adrian Atkinson, and I'll be with you for this leg of your travels.
Good day, I'm Lorraine Mendez, and this is your JIS News for Tuesday, March 22. Work is to commence this year under a $13 billion special capital expenditure CapEx program, which targets 6 strategic high-traffic corridors in the corporate area. Prime Minister Andrew Holness gave a detailed update during his 2022-23 budget presentation last Thursday. The schedule will see the widening of Arthur Wint Drive and the dualization of Grange Lane beginning in April. The King's House Road and Lady Musgrave Road dualization will begin in May.
We know that residents have expressed concerns about the improvement of this particular corridor. The fear is that it might bring more traffic to the area. Madam Speaker, let me say that we have studied the problem, and I think you are not going to see any greater traffic. I think what you will see is a smoother flow of traffic.
Other projects such as the widening of Brayton Road and part of Helsham Main Road will begin in April 2023. So too is the expansion of the Sandy Gully Bridge on Washington Boulevard at Pembroke Hall to part of Kenhill Drive. Giving an update on plans for the new Portmore access via Mandela Highway, Mr. Holness says the public investment process is now underway. The project will include the construction of a bridge over the Rio Cobre River. Work is scheduled to begin in August 2023. Still on roadworks, Prime Minister Andrew Holness is giving assurance that the impact of stormwater flow along several roadways across the island is being addressed. The targeted areas include Marcus Garvey Drive, Maxfield Avenue and Falmouth Dragline. Sections of Maypen, Santa Cruz, Port Maria and Montego Bay are also earmarked for attention.
I believe that with investments in these locations and more resilient infrastructure, we will be able, Madam Speaker, to safeguard our country against the shocks of natural disasters.
During the last fiscal year, the National Works Agency spent $5.3 billion on road maintenance and $637 million on flood mitigation works. Government continues its commitment to the delivery of improved dwellings under the new social housing program. Prime Minister Andrew Holness made 2 stops on Friday, the first in St. Anne to hand over a 2-bedroom house to Andrea Riley in Claremont, the other to Marva Diaz of Gordon Penn St. Catherine. Both houses were constructed at a cost of $4.3 million each. Mr. Holness says lives are being changed through the program, with the 60 houses provided so far benefiting over 300 persons.
What we are doing under the new social housing program is to ensure that of the 70,000 houses that we are going to build, there is a solution for those people who can't afford a house any at all and who live in the worst of the worst situation.
A location has been selected in Gregory Park for the construction of a modern market in Portmore St. Catherine. Minister of Local Government and Rural Development Desmond McKenzie made the disclosure while addressing a community meeting recently. He says the state-of-the-art facility will be built on a 12-acre property to meet the need in the Portmore area.
That we will be building a modern market. And this market is for the benefit of the people of Portmore.
Mr. McKenzie says further details will be provided when he makes his contribution to the sectoral debate in Parliament. The Ministry of Justice will partner with the Jamaica Constabulary Force in its public education campaign on the use of alternative dispute resolution methods. Approximately $100 million is being provided through the Ministry of Finance to fund the campaign, as well as other restorative justice activities. The aim is to build awareness of other peaceful ways of settling disputes outside of the courts. Justice Minister Delroy Chuck says the team will engage community members on the services and share successes of the program.
I'm not too sure if we're looking and aiming for peace that the court system is necessarily where we're going to get it. And that is why I will be launching shortly a very strong campaign for ADR, Alternative Dispute Resolution. Because not only will it help to reduce the number of cases in the court, but it will also help to deliver justice within communities.
Minister Chuck was speaking recently at the launch of the International University of the Caribbean Peace Institute and Extended Learning Center. He says the public education campaign will seek to address various disputes and emphasize the effectiveness of ADR methods to provide redress and restore relationships. And finally, the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology has procured a 2021 Toyota Hiace bus to support the execution of services related to its National Broadband Initiative. The vehicle, which was handed over to the National Works Agency last Thursday, will be used to transport technicians who will install fiber optic cables across the country.
We are pleased to be handing over this vehicle to the National Works Agency in support of advancing the work of the Emergency Broadband Initiative. Specifically, ladies and gentlemen, this unit will serve as a means to bolstering the efforts of the NWA in the efficient and reliable transportation of fiber technicians and their equipment, and of course, installation of fiber optic cables.
The Technology Minister says the COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted a significant digital divide in Jamaica, as well as the importance of bridging that divide. The National Broadband Initiative, which forms part of government's goal of having a truly digital society by 2030, aims to have every household and community connected to the internet. And that's it for JIS News today. I'm Lorraine Mendez. Thanks for watching.
Without a doubt, tourism is Jamaica's #1 industry, and our dedicated workers are its greatest asset. Jamaica would not be the heartbeat of the world without you. As the industry rebounds from the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, we truly need all hands on deck, yours included. Vaccination holds the hope for tourism's full recovery. In addition to COVID-19 protocols, it is the only comprehensive way to fight the pandemic and save lives. I am therefore urging every worker in the tourism and hospitality industry, in all the subsectors, including accommodation, attractions, entertainment, transportation and craft, to do your part and get vaccinated. Do it for yourself, your family, your workplace, and your community. Do it for Jamaica, land we love. Stay safe. Get vaccinated.
There are two art forms that continuously gift the world with their phenomenal capabilities. One is women, the other, water. Individually, their impact is immense. Can you then imagine a combined effort? It's World Water Day. Let's dive into this next feature and prove the mentioned statement true.
History and perhaps culture have kept many women a rung lower on the professional ladder and firmly planted in fields once deemed a man's domain. But more women are going beyond the expected and dismantling these stereotypical norms. One of the biggest areas in which they're going beyond the unseen rules guiding gender and professional expectations is hydrology.
Hi, I'm Alexia Gray and I'm a woman in hydrology. Hi, my name is Natalie Hutchings and I'm a hydrogeologist at the Water Resources Authority. And yes, I'm a woman.
I ended up being a hydrologist completely by accident, by serendipity. I wanted to do engineering when I finished high school, but I didn't get into the program when I first applied. So I enrolled in geology and physics classes in my first year at university, and the rest is history.
As a hydrogeologist, some of my routine work includes wells and stream flow monitoring and measurements. I also do water quality sampling, and I create maps and do reports. So essentially, my work takes me traveling around Jamaica in search for water sources. Hydrogeology was something I've always wanted to do. So from high school, I wanted to be a geologist. So I went to UWI to do geology. And then that led me into a career at the WRA, where now I work in water. And I've come to appreciate water as the most invaluable natural resource on Earth.
Despite ideas of progress not always matching parity, or the whole narrative of what's a man's or a woman's job, what these women are doing is significantly impacting lives right across the country.
The Water Resources Authority has three main roles. We investigate queries about new and existing water sources or resources. We collect data in terms of stream flow and quality, and we also allocate water to users such as the NWC, which is our biggest user, and other entities.
In order to allocate water, we would have to have an understanding of how much water is available. So we would do data collection such as flow measurements or well measurements and understand how much water is available to see how much water is in demand, and then we do the calculations. So where there is a deficit, water is usually supplied from areas where there's a surplus to balance things out.
For these women, their duties also expand to providing responses in times of drought.
The key to drought resiliency is improved capture and storage of water. Jamaica has more than enough water to serve its population. However, our problem is that we do not capture enough of it, and we do not have enough storage for the population. So the key is to capture it, reduce leaks, and to build more storage, install tanks, build more dams, and other types of reservoirs.
They're also testing and assessing the quality of our groundwater while keeping us all in the know.
Jamaica's groundwater quality is generally good. It meets the ambient standard, the national ambient standard. Ambient meaning doesn't need any treatment, right? However, there are a few basins that are contaminated due to pollution or saltwater intrusion. But for the most part across the island, our groundwater is pretty good for domestic use. However, for agricultural and industrial users, they may need to treat their water to international standards depending on what they're going to use it for.
And as for their perception on why the profession of hydrology or hydrogeology remains a male-dominated field?
For a hydrologist or hydrogeologist, being out in the field means doing physical and practical tasks. It usually includes long drives out of town, hiking through river valleys, over hills in search for water. The profession is usually male-dominated because we live in a society and a culture where men are usually seen as physically stronger, and they also require less security in the field.
Women were not allowed to work, we were not even allowed to become educated to do these jobs. So that has been changing with changing attitudes of both men and women. It's improving, but we have a far way to go.
And just like these two female hydrologists, many women are stepping into diverse professions, and they're changing the older narrative to craft their own stories.
Boys across Jamaica are victims of hard falls, but as many of you would agree, they deserve a chance to change that narrative. And where better to do that? In an environment that nurtures and inspires growth and change.
Within a span of just about 3 years, the Mount Olivet Boys' Home in the cool hills of Waldeston, Manchester underwent a stunning transformation, from a near 200-year-old lodging to a modern architectural charm. This eye-catching edifice is the kind of house within which any family would make a home. The newly built residential care facility for children who are wards of the state represents a significant push towards a world-class childcare sector. It is creating the environment to ensure that the needs of children are met, even when they cannot live with their own families. A caring atmosphere that allows the children to grow and develop their self-confidence and self-esteem through positive experiences. It's not just about shelter, clothes, and food, but also educational and career mentorship, as well as space for play and leisure. The new building comes as a gift from Olympic track star Johan Blake's Why Be Afraid Foundation in partnership with other individuals and organizations. Among them, Redgrave Luxury in the UK, Richard Mille Japan, and the Sandals Foundation. The Why Be Afraid Foundation has been involved with Mount Olivet since it was introduced to the home by the Jamaica Information Service JIS several years ago. In 2009, the JIS adopted the Mount Olivet Boys' Home, and the facility remains the agency's main corporate social responsibility project. Following several visits to the home to perform various charitable deeds, the idea emerged among the philanthropists and operators of the facility to create this new dwelling to foster happy and inspired children.
This is going to revolutionize the way how we care for boys at Mount Olivet and in Jamaica on a whole. This new building is going to provide a level of care that has not been seen in Jamaica for a very long time.
Even while periodic paint work was carried out on the old living quarters, these upgrades remained inadequate for the safety, security, and general well-being of the boys.
That old building is difficult to maintain. We're talking about plumbing works, the painting works, the kitchen area. It's just an old building. That was the old church house for the pastor, and it's probably as old as the church, and the church is over 185 years.
Repairs would have been so extensive that the Why Be Afraid Foundation and its partners thought it would not have been practical. And so, the decision was made to design and build a modern, exciting, and inspiring space. A young architect, Jerome Pusey, was engaged for the design, and the construction commenced in November 2019. The COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 made the work extremely challenging, but the local contractor on the project, Pavcon Construction Company, was up to the task, ensuring the boys would be sleeping in their new accommodation by the summer of 2021. Both the old and new dormitories have a capacity for accommodating close to 50 boys, ages 6 to 18 years old. With its bright yellow front door, the new home welcomes the boys to 2 wings, one housing their living space, which towers over 3 floors. The ground floor is for boys up to age 9, with those 10 to 13 years old on the second floor, and the top floor reserved for boys from age 14 to 17.
There is enough space for everyone. As you have seen just now, there's 3 levels. The smaller one will be at the bottom. And just in case we have somebody who is physically challenged, they will stay on the ground floor. And there's space on the second and the third floor.
The other wing of the facility accommodates the working functions of the home. The kitchen, cafeteria, and laundry are on the ground floor. Up a level, and there's a fully functioning computer lab for the boys. There's also a gaming and music room, outdoor balcony, space for visitors, and a kitchen in that space. On the outside is an extensive playground for the boys, with artificial turf, football field, and stages for performing.
We are going to have to do some orientation of both boys and staff as to what we expect. And we have to have a new concept as to how we treat our boys and how we care for boys in a holistic way. Moving into this new space is going to be a whole lot different in terms of to maintain and just a more comfortable space for the boys to live in. The good thing is that the Why Be Afraid Foundation is going to assist us with the maintenance for the first couple of years. So they are now looking at maintenance maintenance services to come in at least once per month to help us with the maintenance, and we will have our local persons here at the home whose duty and job will be specifically to maintain the building.
The old buildings will be retrofitted and converted into a halfway house or transitional pre-independent living facility for those boys who have aged out of the state's childcare system.
We still have boys who are in rented facility that the transitional living program is paying those rent off premises, but this building now will house them, and we're looking at staffing for that building. So we will have space for those boys.
Some of that space will also be used to construct a Heart NSTA Trust certified skills training center.
There's the Sandal Foundation who have shown some interest that we are going to set up a woodwork shop and a welding area. So those boys who are inclined will have an opportunity to learn a skill there in woodwork or welding. And that space will also be open to the general public.
The Jamaica Information Service staff, along with partnering sponsors, continue to support the home's other needs on routine treks to the facility yearly. The JIS makes 3 visits to the home in April, August, and December. On these trips, the agency also incorporates a sports day, career day, back to school, mentorship, and birthday celebration, as well as annual Christmas luncheon and award ceremony. Agency CEO Donna Marie Rowe sees this corporate sponsor initiative as a winning tool to encourage and inspire the children in their care.
As an agency, we felt that it was necessary to become involved in our community. And corporate social responsibility is very key to all of us here as a core value. And usually we talk about giving back and paying it forward.
Fact: our children are an endangered species, not for fear of going extinct, but for not being exempt from violence and criminal acts, which result in them being burdened with trauma. One agency has sought to address this by translating complex lessons and messages for children with the aim of preventing and helping them recover from any such intense experience.
Children sometimes see too much. At other times, they hear too much. And many of them feel too much. There are situations where children become victims of crimes, seeing, hearing, and feeling too much of its effect. The hurt and trauma can linger without the proper intervention strategies. This is where government's Victim Services Division comes in. The VSD is having a far-reaching and sweeping impact as it provides help to this vulnerable group.
The Victim Services Division is that division within the Ministry of Justice, which is responsible for coordinating the ministry's support base for victims of crime. Anyone can become a victim of a crime. Victims of crime are often persons who suffer just about any crime you imagine. There are sexual crimes, small children, there is robbery, there is, unfortunate, there is murder, wherein the primary victim, though, has deceased. The secondary victim, which is the family members, are there for the support that we give. We recognize that our victim population was getting younger. Whilst we still would have to communicate with them some of the complex concepts that are a part of the therapeutic process. Hence, we needed to find a medium that will allow for us to use their type of language, colors and sounds and movement.
Well, that medium the ministry found was the use of an animation bundle. It is comprised of 8 short films that offer therapeutic intervention and lessons to children who are victims of crime.
Your daughter was almost abducted today, but she was smart. She ran away. However, there is more she could have done. Walking with headphones on is a dangerous habit. You must be alert. Pay attention to your surroundings and the dangers around you.
Our animation strategy involves the creation of a character called Justy. And Justy represents all that is good and right about what should be done when a child is faced with a difficulty. A child seeing the animation immediately will be able to interact. They are short animation films, so the attention span of the child is not hampered in any way. And our intent is not just for them to watch Justy, but to become and to embody the teachings, the values of Justy in order to help other children.
Our mission is to ensure that you have access to all the information you need, and we've been making a daily effort to keep you informed. We here at the Jamaica Information Service, the JIS, appreciate your continued viewership and engagement on this channel, as well as our website, social media pages, and YouTube channel. We continue to serve you. Until next time, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Walk good.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.